we now have those images in that images folder. And now what I want to do is actually link them in here. So I'm going to put a picture right after the word, after my title. I'm going to put an image right underneath it. So what I'm going to do is just underneath this, I'm just going to go ahead and do an image tag, okay, an image element. So it's img. Then we have to tell it where to find the image. So in this case, it's the attribute that we apply. Just like we added an href here that links to this URL, we're going to do another one here, but it's not an href. It's an src for source, and then equals quotes. You can just hit enter once that little thing pops up. And now it's the file path to the images. So if you remember, when we look in here, you can see we are right here, okay? So the file path would be images, then the image name. In this case, it's portrait, okay? So it's going to be images / because it's the images folder, and then the name of the file. Now here's what I suggest. Don't just write portrait. Personally, even I myself do it this way. I will open it up in here, and then I will click on this until I get to the name, and make sure I grab the whole name like that, and then I'll copy it. Control-C or Command-C, or you can right-click and copy. Copy the text just to make sure it's absolutely the same. Because I know it sounds really silly, but you might have like a JPEG, right? But I've seen JPEGs written as portrait.jpeg, because that's what it used to be. It's Joint Photographers Expert Group. That's what it's named after. I've seen it .jpg, and it's all caps, and it makes a difference. It sounds really silly, but it does. So it has to be exactly the same with the extension and all. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'll just do Control-V for paste. Now, if you decide to use your own image, it should still be in the images folder, so it should say images, but obviously this would be different depending on what your thing is, okay? So we're going to do that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to add another attribute, okay? And this is going to be an alt, or alternative. And here, you want to just write what it is. So I'm going to say a portrait of cone. And then what we do, space, and then just put that in quotes, / and that, okay? Now you'll notice that there's no closing tag, right? This element only has, it's an open element. It only has the one tag, and that's because it's not wrapping around content, right? It is the content. It is the image. It's a link to an image, okay? As opposed to, like, let's say this link here, right? It's wrapping around this word and giving it the ability to be a link. This is just putting an image in there, so it's not the same thing. Now, you might be wondering, if you read the stuff, you should know, but the alt holds a couple different purposes. Basically, what it does is that for some reason the image doesn't show up, like it just lost the link or the internet connection is slow or something and the picture doesn't show up. It will instead show it'll show this, so you'll know what was supposed to be there. More importantly, it's actually an ADA thing, Americans Disability Act. If someone is hard of seeing, I don't think that's the word. You know, if they don't see well, and they might use a screen reader in order to be on the internet, the screen reader will actually read the alt to them. So that way they'll be like, oh, picture of whatever, you know, and then they'll carry on with the text of the document, okay? You do want to put this in here. It's a benefit, and it's, you know, so that's what that does, all right? Now, if I go ahead and I preview this, so I'm just going to go ahead and we'll just save it, Control-S, and I'm just going to go ahead and, let's see. Let's back this up, and let's preview it. You will now see a picture. Hang on. Let's make this smaller so it's more manageable. There we go. You'll now see a picture with the rest of it, right? And it's basically, it shows up wherever you put it in the code. All right, so that is one image done. I want to put another picture down here. So you might have noticed that sometimes when you click on links, the links themselves aren't actually text, right? So right now, if we were to look at this, you're going to see that if we go to the very bottom, it's the underlying word, right? What if you want to use a picture? It's actually really easy. All you do is that we take out this Teach Me Cone, just delete that out, and then instead, we're going to go ahead and do an IMG SRC equals quotes, and it's images / and then I just want to find what my thing is. So let's go to my images folder, and it's this cone logo. And I'm just gonna click on it till I can. I think you can right click and rename. Isn't that one of the options? No, it is on right here. Rename, and then I can just don't actually rename it. I'm just gonna copy it, Control C or Command C, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and paste it in here, Control V, and then I'm just going to space, and then we'll just do we'll do an Alt. Alt equals, and then we'll just say, link to teach me cone to teach me cone, and then we'll just do this and this to close the element. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight it so you see what we just did. We just did this little bit here. So it's image source equals, and then we put this images / cone logo, and then we put this alt as well so that they know what it is to. Then we just make sure it's an open element by putting only this and nothing else after it, and that is inside of my link. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and I'm just going to make sure I save this first, Control S or Command S, because if you don't save it, it won't show up in the browser window. Now, if I go back here and I refresh, you'll see now there's a picture there. But watch, see how my cursor turns into a hand? That is actually a link. So the image becomes a link. One other thing I just want to point out quick before we go to the next slide is that I want you to notice that when we did our site here, this is an absolute URL. So this is saying HTTPS, right? Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, teachmecone.flywheelsites.com. So it's going to this specific computer, a specific server, okay? But this one is like a file path because it says images / portrait.jpg. So this is what we call a relative URL because this is in relation to where our document is. This will work no matter where our document is placed because this is always going to go that specific location, okay? It's important to do some things one way or the other, but for now, we'll get more into it later, but just so you're aware, all right? Okay, good. So on the next one, we will start CSS.